Hey guys, welcome everybody to the Gecko Pod. This is episode 57. We are a podcast for the gecko community where we talk about the hobby and the business of breeding geckos. My name is Harry with Zero's Geckos. We have co-host AJD Reptiles. And today we're switching it up. We have a special guest. We have Robyn at Redline Shipping. How you doing, Robyn?
I'm good. How you doing, fellas?
You're doing good. Thanks for being here.
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, we usually have breeders. I think we've only interviewed breeders, huh, AJ?
We had Gecko Junkie on, and he's kind of like a hybrid a little bit. Dry good and not. And Pangea.
He's a giant entrepreneur. He's one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
Tristan, he works so friggin' hard and goes so fast. I worry about his burnout sometimes, but that's good to know you guys had him on. He's one of my favorite people in the industry. I think one of our great young entrepreneurs, both on the animal side and the merchandise side. So that's great that you guys had him.
Yeah, he hustles, man. He's a good dude. So
yeah, I've known Tristan a long time, and I have a bunch of his caging, and it was great to have him on. He just is a engine that won't stop for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love those kind of folks. I mean, isn't that the kind of the driving nature of our industry and the hobby is that entrepreneurial spirit? Yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing behind, small breeders are small entrepreneurs, looking to have a product, and in many cases, the actual animals themselves, and then reproduce it and sell it, and create a customer base. So, people do it on different scales. But Tristan at this point is a pretty significant scaled guy. If you ever look at his show list, I mean, it must be 75 shows a year.
I saw a picture of one of the shows recently. I forgot who sent it to us, but he took up basically half the building.
I think he'll take up as much room as you'll give him.
Yeah. He shows out for sure. He definitely shows out.
At the last Tinley Park, in the fall, I think it was, he had his big setup inside, and then out back he's got his trailer, and he's got a crew of guys in the trailer out back assembling racks and cages as people are buying them on the floor. He's got a whole walkie-talkie system he showed me. It was insane. I'd love to see that kind of innovation and push. And right now he's seeing some incredible success. So good for him. I love to see young folks coming up. I've been around over 30 years now, but to see new generations of folks get into the business is really, really impressive. Even one of our mightiest members of our community, Josh at Josh's Frogs, his early shows that we would meet and see him at, I mean, he was breeding dart frogs in his bedroom. And, this year, I think he forecast to do over $20 million in business this year.
That's incredible. Get all my crickets from Josh's Frogs.
That's bonkers. Well, you're part of the 20 million then, right on.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, you were talking about your 30 years of being in the industry. Can you give us a little bit about background of who you are, how it was back then, how you got started in the industry, and how you either merged or came about the shipping industry?
Yeah, so I started in the reptile world in 1993 is when I got in.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of folks in the industry, a lot of people are in the hobby working with animals and, obsessed with the animals and stuff since they were kids. My experience wasn't like that. I actually grew up in Hawaii. And so there's not a reptile scene in Hawaii.
I
remember we had Jackson chameleons were an invasive species that got introduced, and there was some there. And you got geckos and stuff. But as far as I'd never seen snakes before. Leopard geckos, some of the staple, corn snakes, ball pythons, all that stuff were staple stuff for the hobby in the industry. I'd never seen it until I moved to Colorado. And so in Colorado is when I kind of just fell into it. I got a partner. He was very much into the animals his whole life. And so we decided to start breeding, and that was in 1993. And that was early enough. There were pioneers at that point: Bob Clark, Mark Bell, Brian Barczyk had already started. there was this thing like you could breed animals and sell them and have that as a business. That was still pretty fresh back then.
Yeah.
Like Bob had been doing it. Bob Clark had been doing it in the late 80s, maybe even close to the mid 80s. And same with Mark Bell. And so there was a real rush of new blood at that point when we were all young at that point, coming into the hobby and the industry looking to, make businesses out of this. So we started that was Pro Exotics Reptiles, and that ran nearly 20 years. So I spent a long time on the livestock side.
Okay.
And back then we were also really dumb. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just making shit up as we went, really. Now there's such an advantage now that you have such an easy way to exchange knowledge and husbandry and breeding. I mean, like shows like this, where it's just, primarily, because that's what I'm on, you're just talking about like crested geckos. Back in the 90s, we didn't have anything like that, no resources like that. So you just learned a lot of really hard lessons on how to do stuff and mostly how not to do it. And we also didn't specialize back then. Like we just tried to do everything. Everybody was trying to breed every friggin' possible species you can. So we did geckos. We did leopard geckos. We did some of the first crested geckos that came out. I remember I worked with Alan and probably Philippe on buying the first couple crested geckos. They were like $4,000 or something. For like wild type cresteds. We did Chinese cave geckos back then, and then milk snakes, corn snakes, king snakes, rat snakes. We did Burmese pythons. We did African rock pythons for some reason. We did ball pythons. We did Argentine boas. We did Dumeral's boas. We did St. Lucian boas, which aren't available anymore. Common boas. We did red tail boas. That's just what everybody did. You just did, any possible thing you could think of. We would try and bring in and breed, and you had very limited success for the most part. It was really quite challenging. Once we started focusing down more late 90s, early 2000s, we got rid of the giant snakes. We started focusing on monitor lizards, which was a real big hit with me. Then we started having more success. So as you limit your scope of what you're working with, that tends to contribute to success. So we fine-tuned. We got into ball pythons really, really big. Monitor lizards really big. Like the Aki monitors, like dwarf species of monitors, we were really big into for a while. Rat snakes we did very strong. At one point, we were probably the world's top producer of the Aki monitors. Certainly top U.S. producer. Top producer of Mandarin rat snakes, Coxeye, Red Mountain Racer stuff. I remember one year, I think we hatched maybe 8,000 leopard geckos, which seems like a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, it's not a lot compared to some of these folks, but that is a lot.
That's a lot.
Right. Yeah. Again, Mark Bell or Bill Brandt, they might hatch 300,000 leopard geckos in a year.
Oh my goodness.
It's all relative, right? So, so we did that. That came to an end in 2011. For Pro Exotics, we actually had a fire at our facility that just overnight just wiped us out. It just shut everything off. So that was the end of that chapter. 2009, we actually had started Shipping Reptiles. So I came up, this concept of everybody was shipping reptiles, in the industry. But at that time, some folks were still going like airport shipping, like air freight, Delta Dash, or Southwest. But we used UPS at the time, and that was starting to become a bigger thing. And so kind of conceptualized this idea of third-party overnight shipping for the animals. And the goal was originally to get just a better rate, bigger volume, and you get a better discount. And so Shipping Reptiles was started back then. It was with UPS originally, because that was who we were with. Okay. And that ran for about a year. And then UPS shut it off. They decided they did not want to be in the third-party shipping business, and they have a real hang-up on snakes.
They don't like snakes. Yeah,
they do not like snakes. It's in
something bad must have happened. Huh?
In their TOS, the UPS TOS does no snakes, whereas the FedEx it does not. So we pivoted over to FedEx and restarted with them. And that was a great success, and spent the next decade pioneering the third-party shipping business.
Yeah.
2012, I started, it was after the fire. I was sort of looking for something else to do, or some other, you want to stay in the industry. You still want to have inspiration. I'm a big guy for marketing and promotion. So then 2012, I started the Reptile Report.
Okay.
Got that going, and that originally had a website and a Facebook page. Over the years, the website, I ended up pulling it down just as things evolve. And so it just exists as a Facebook page and Instagram page. That's still going strong. We're over 1 million strong on Facebook. Wow. Probably close to 250,000, I think, on Instagram, which I only started focusing on a few years ago.
Do you run that yourself, or you run that with somebody else?
I have a small staff that does that for me.
Cool.
My Reptile Report contributions, mostly I just pester them by sending them links and pictures and stuff that I come across and be like, Harry's got this really great gecko picture, whatever. I'll send it there.
Yeah.
But nice. I have a main staffer, Emily, and she runs the profiles and stuff for me.
Awesome.
And it's very low maintenance at this point, but it reaches a great audience. And the whole goal of that was to help smaller folks reach a bigger audience than they can by themselves, right? You get a bigger spotlight if the Reptile Report features you. So, and that, continues to be the case. It reaches a really nice audience, and we're able to have, great content up there. And I mean, some folks we've been sharing for 10 years now. So, that continues to go along. 2014, I started with my partners, THG Heat Tape. So we started our own heat tape company. We did not care for the Flex Swap product at the time, which we'd used forever. So we looked to improve on that. We started that. That product is still going very strong, although I rolled it under my Redline Science product company in about 2020. 2019, I split with my longtime, almost 30-year partner, and started Redline Science for products. That's the hardest business I've ever been in, is trying to, design and sell products. That's a really tough one. I'm not sure how guys do it. And then 22, I started Redline Shipping to get back in the shipping world. Okay. So shipping I really can't explain it or understand it. I have a real passion for shipping. Yeah. The transport of the animals, the service itself, the reliability of it, to be able to offer insurance on stuff. I just love the business. There's a common tie between reptile shipping as Redline Shipping and the Reptile Report, in that both of them help me support other businesses. There's and that's a very common thread for me, and a very common strategy for me, that I, with shipping, we can get folks a discount on shipping to make the shipping more affordable. But I've always looked at it as a way to help smaller breeders, or even medium and large breeders, access shipping at a better price and get better service.
Yes.
Get better performance, get better packaging, get better results. And that in turn then helps them grow their business. And, same with Reptile Report, get better views, get more eyeballs on your animals or your brand or whatever it is. And that helps you grow your business. I was an entrepreneur when I was, 6 years old. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. If I was a kid today, I would want to be like Tristan. And then as I grew up, I'd get smarter and not be as insane as him. Keep a lighter
We're waiting for him to slow down. He hasn't yet.
Yeah, he will. Give him time. But I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But, just that great timing in the early 90s, getting into the reptile world and realizing that this is a possible thing, to be an entrepreneur and breed animals, pivot into the service side, pivot into the informational side for Reptile Report. Like, I've had a couple different evolutions in my time. Some of my friends, like Josh has, been doing fairly consistent work all the way through at Josh Frogs. And some breeders, Bob Clark or Mike Wilbanks have been breeding consistently, their ball pythons for, decades and decades. I was forced into a couple different pivots, whether it be through, a fire issue or a relationship issue or whatever it is. And so you pivot and move to something new, but I always wanted to stay in the reptile world. That turned out to be, in 1993, I didn't know it was going to be my career, but it definitely is now. And this is where I will end my days, is in the reptile world. And I love it. I mean, it's a great family. It's a great, a great hobby and industry together. I have a lot of great and longstanding relationships. And, every year I meet brand new people and fresh young folks that are just coming in or just developing their business. So yeah, it's been a really cool journey, but I've touched on a lot of different aspects of our industry for sure in my time.
Yeah, no, that's really good. When you started Redline Shipping 2022, not too long ago, was there like something within the shipping industry that was missing that you wanted to fill, or is it just simply kind of your entrepreneurial spirit that you wanted to just jump in and restart something?
Yeah, the thing that was missing was me. That was it.
We agree.
No, I had a non-compete. I had a non-compete for a few years.
Oh, okay.
And so I did not want to be out of the shipping world. I see. Okay. And so once that was over, I knew I wanted to jump back in.
Got it. Yeah.
And I talked to a longtime friend and very prominent ball python breeder today about that jumping back in part, because it's sometimes when you get a brand new fresh start, you can do things differently.
Yeah.
And so with Redline, I knew some changes that I wanted to make from my Ship Your Reptiles days. And I knew some features that I wanted to do. And I knew how smoothly I wanted the website to work, the interface aspect to work. And I knew where I wanted customer service to be. And so, you're starting from zero, you can build whatever you want. So we were able to build what I think is the best interface in the business. Branding was, it's a fresh chance to look at your branding and your marketing and your logos. And I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, I got to take a fresh look at that. And so being able to start again with, the whole thing about, like, I've learned all these life lessons. If I could go back and start again, I would do such and such. That's exactly what I got to do.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So a little bit of drama, but it's brought you to a place that has you at I feel like your Redline Shipping, whatever you did marketing wise, you've done an amazing job. I mean, just as a new breeder myself, I came in 2021 or so, and yeah, you're basically everywhere. A lot of new breeders use you guys. There's Reptiles to You that has been kind of dominating a lot of the space, but you just came in and you guys done a really great job. So and the
other thing that's interesting is there's only a couple personalities in our business that endure, as far as they will be remembered long from now. And I'm really well known in the business. I know a lot of people in the business. I am not one of those personalities. So, when I restarted Redline Shipping and I go into the shipping business and I talk to somebody that got into the business in 2021 or 2019 for that matter, they have no idea that I was in the business before. Like, they're just like, Redline is the spot to be. Everybody's using Redline, and we are number one now, which I'm happy about. But they come in and they're like, this is the pitch and the appeal of using Redline and the marketing aspect and the branding and all the different swag and the programs that we have. It gets people's eyeballs, but they didn't know that. I mean, a lot of folks don't know that I had started SYR or that, and then in my SYR days, a lot of people had no idea I bred reptiles in the past. So, that you'd be surprised. You give it a couple of years of not doing your thing, and
nobody remembers.
Nobody remembers, and that's totally fine. I don't have that legacy type of need or ego.
Yeah,
You know,
I like that.
again, I'll go to the shows and, big shows, and feels like I know everybody there. But, yeah, you go quiet for a couple of years and nobody's going to remember you. And that's fine. I don't have any issue with that.
Yeah.
Whereas very recently and relevant, I think Brian Barczyk is going to be remembered 30 years from now.
Yeah.
I think people will talk about Brian, decades from now. And I think that's justified. He's reached more people than all of the rest of us combined.
Yeah.
And that legacy was important to him. Brian was a very, very dear friend of mine. And so, we talked about such issues, and that legacy is important to him, and he achieved that. But yeah, it can be very humbling to bust your ass for, 20 years breeding animals or 10 years on shipping. And then you take a couple of years off, and people like, when we launched Redline, I got a message from a guy, and he was like, "What is this bullshit? You guys are just copying everything SYR does." I was like, well, yeah.
Like I started that company.
yeah. Because he's like, your FAQ is literally just the same thing. And I was like, well, I wrote both of them. That's why it's the same thing. Yeah,
actually,
he had no idea. So
I actually appreciate that. I love the low key hustle more than the loud, boisterous people. I love low key hustlers. Like that is people I kind of look up to. It's because they're quiet and they're humble, and they don't need they don't need the platform, but they do the work. They enjoy it. I love that.
Yeah. What really turns me on is excellence of execution.
Yes.
Whether you're a small breeder, I don't care if you're working with 10 animals or you're a big breeder working with 100,000 animals. When you have a mastery of what you do and you execute at a very, very high level, I love that.
Yes.
The guys at the show that have the tank of Savannah monitors, and there's 30 scrawny, ugly little baby Savannah monitors in there. I don't love that. That's not my favorite thing. But you can have started breeding 6 months ago, and if you present well, your animals look great, you're passionate about it, and you're doing a great job, I love that. I can support that all day long. So I love excellence of execution, no matter what scale you're doing it on. As long as you're doing a great job at it, I can support that all day long.
Yeah, let the work show for itself. And people will appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's awesome. When it comes to the history of the reptile shipping industry, you started shipping reptiles. What, you guys were the first reptile shippers, or were there other people?
The first third party shippers.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And then there's a few competitors at this point. Reptiles Express started feels like a year or two after. Ship the Reptiles had started. And then that branched off into Reptiles to You, which is Debbie. At Reptiles to You. I know she's very, very popular, especially with crested gecko breeders.
Yeah.
And I like Debbie a lot. We get along really, really well. And I see her at shows like Tinley and stuff. So I've known her for a long time. In my downtime, in my 3 years of quiet, not shipping time, I did not reveal that this Redline was coming, or that I had planned. So I still saw her at some shows when I would occasionally go. But starting Redline was a surprise to everybody.
Everybody got scared, right?
Was the launching of Redline pretty close to that? What was the date? Was it pretty close to that October Tinley Park right after COVID? Like when you guys kind of had your big launch with the t-shirt campaign and all that. Was that pretty close to the start?
Yeah, we started on the last day of August of 22. And then there was a NARBC Arlington show mid-September.
Okay.
And where the company was literally 2 weeks old or something.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we kind of did a soft, quiet launch at that show, with the goal of being, like at Tinley. The fall Tinley is, to me, the biggest and best show of the year. It's the most industry show that we have. It's the most pro show that we have. And so that was, it was going to be the big launching point. And I mean, I had, FedEx executives and stuff come to that show.
Wow.
To be there, which was which was awesome. I've been trying to do that for years with SYR and couldn't make it happen. Our FedEx rep and his bosses, above him, we have a big account. We have a big account at SYR. And so you get a pretty high level rep that you work with. But and they understand like what we do. We ship reptiles. Woo, great. But they didn't understand the scale of it or the scope of it or what it really meant. And so that first Tinley, when I was able to bring the FedEx folks there, I mean, it blew them away. I've been working with, some of those guys for 7 or 8 years already.
And they had
they've never actually went to a show to understand it. But when you go to a show like Tinley, it can be overwhelming. Like there's just hundreds and hundreds of vendors and great displays and, great marketing and great branding. And then there's so many people, you can hardly get through the aisles. It's so crowded. And so for the FedEx folks to be there and see that, it was kind of an eye opener to say, holy shit, this is okay. This is really like an industry. This is really a thing. That's awesome. And so that was at that big first Tinley launch. So that was fantastic. And then last year I got one of the directors from FedEx, which is even levels higher above those folks, to come to the Arlington show. She's based in Dallas, and she's based in Houston. She drove to Arlington for the show, and she came with her daughter, and I got to take them around the show, and again to let her understand what we do as an industry, and introduce her to a bunch of different people. Here's gecko folks, here's snake folks, here's merchandise folks. Here's Bio Dude, who's based in Houston as well, and all the cool, bioactive stuff that he's doing. And her daughter was, 10 or 11. She was really fascinated with hognose already. So I went around. Of course, I introduced her to a bunch of hognose breeders, and let her, get to hold animals for the first time. And then you guys probably enjoy this. I figured she would leave the show with a hognose. From Tom Harbin or somebody that had really great stuff. We got to hold his animals. But I thought, this is getting a slam dunk. She's going to leave the show with a hognose. She left the show with the crested gecko.
There it is. The power of the crested.
They came back and they had like a container, and I was like, hognose in there. I'm confident. And she's like, I got a crested gecko. I was like, okay, all right. And what would happen was we'd spent time with Tristan over at his spot. And, he was as gracious as always. And, he's super family friendly. He took time. We posed for pictures. He gave her a bunch of free shirts and stuff. He was a very great host. But he got that girl hooked on crested geckos. So she left the show with crested gecko. And, fantastic. I love it. I think that was great. But, to be able to give our industry more credibility and more weight out with these. I mean, FedEx is a multi-billion-dollar company, but to have them appreciate what we do, and how we're executing, and the people that are in the business, that's always a great opportunity. So I'm always happy to do that as well.
Yeah, has throughout the years the shipping industry evolved in terms of how you guys do things, or is it pretty straightforward from the get-go? What has changed from back then to now?
I mean, early on shipping, before Shipping Reptiles time, there was a lot of air freight shipping. So you would have to drive to the airport to drop off your package.
Okay. Yeah.
And then your recipient would have to drive to their airport to go pick it up. And so that was not very convenient. And usually in those days, we'd lump shipments into, once every couple of weeks, you would do your shipments.
Yeah.
Because, for me, the drive from Boulder to the Denver, Colorado airport at the time was an hour. And so you try and schedule that kind of stuff. And, sometimes your shipments would come in at midnight. So you'd drive out to the airport at midnight to pick them up. So it was super clunky. Once we moved over to like the UPS and FedEx model, that makes it a lot more convenient. And that's really when we started tightening up packaging, as far as developing packaging standards with insulated boxes, how to use heat packs, what type of heat packs to use. And then phase packs came along, which are important and on the Crested Gecko side, I feel. But I mean, as far as the overnight shipping, like since 2009, it hasn't changed.
Okay.
Super significantly. COVID was a mess. Those 3 COVID years was bonkers and very difficult for shipping at the time. Just, everything was a mess during those weird historical years. But no, I mean, it's the same type of thing. My standard for packaging, for Redline packaging standards, is the same as the SYR packaging standards from 2011.
Okay.
The same insulated shipping boxes, heat packs, the temperature guidelines are the same. The heat pack use guidelines are the same. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll ask you about some of those tips and advice in a bit. But when it comes to FedEx, I know it sounds like you have a really good relationship with FedEx. Yeah. How does that look when it comes to, so for example, like when you ask Debbie where your package is, she like goes out of her way to kind of like try to figure out all of the different where the packages are, that she'll try to push your packages if she can, like how close are you to FedEx, and are you able to kind of pull strings and stuff like that, or does it work like that? I don't even know.
Depends. It depends on what the circumstances are. So, one of the advantages to having a huge account is you get a different level of customer service with FedEx. So we have a dedicated, like a premier team is what it's called, for customer service. So we get an entirely different team that we interact with than John Smith gets when he calls 1-800-FedEx. When you talk to 1-800-FedEx, they'll tell you pretty much whatever you want to hear, whether it's true or not. We'll push your package through. No problem. It'll be there by 3:00, no problem. When we talk to the Premier team, we're looking at a deeper level of information and tracking. You can see and interact with, like, the package gets scanned a lot more than what you would see when you normally just do tracking on FedEx.com.
Okay.
And so there's a bunch of internal scans. And so folks like Debbie or my Redline team, we can see and access those more readily, so we have a better understanding.
Got it.
And somebody like AJ, who leads my team, she's developed such a great feel for it over the years. She's able to essentially look at flight logs and schedules and see and predict that this package is going to leave Memphis on this particular flight, going out at this particular time. Or say it's late. Say the package is late and it's stuck in Memphis. She can forecast that there is a flight leaving at 8 p.m. and it looks like we'll be able to get cleared and make that flight, which puts us, at this destination at this time, which gives us looking at a normal morning arrival. So those kind of details have improved over the years. FedEx's systems have improved over the years. But then again, as recently as last week, there's a big cold storm and cold thump across the whole country. And Memphis was a mess, just a mess. It got so bad there that they were taking express packages for airline. They fly shit around the country. They were taking express packages and putting them on trucks just to drive them out of Memphis, just to try and get them on the way somewhere else, not here. Which adds, multiple days to delivery, but that's how backed up they were. So that's, when it storms and it gets really nasty, it can still feel like, caveman times trying to get stuff to move.
Yeah, because I know at least, so where I drop my packages, my FedEx is at the airport that I go to in Greensboro, North Carolina. And if there's any lightning, if there's any like significant weather, they can't move from, like, they can't load trucks and stuff. Like there's certain things that they can't do when the weather's up. So I'd imagine in Memphis, it's just exacerbated a lot.
Yeah. Well, they essentially have their own airport in Memphis.
Yeah.
We did a Memphis tour last year. I took a bunch of clients, a bunch of shippers, Reptile folks down there, met with, FedEx folks there, and they take you around that whole facility and show you the package sort, and you get to go on one of the 777s and see how the packages are loaded on the plane, and you get to see that whole system. And it's really impressive, but some lightning will shut that down in a second.
Yeah.
And it's funny you're located in Greensboro. I spend a lot of time in High Point.
Yeah.
At the Reptile Basics facility. That's where we ship our packaging from. Yeah.
I'm there quite a bit. I gotta go tomorrow. So
there you go. Yeah. And so when I visit there, 50% of the time I get stuck into Greensboro trying to get back out like Sunday night because of weather. And you get your flight canceled in Greensboro. You got Harry, the airport in Greensboro has like 4 gates.
Okay.
It's not that bad.
It's as big as a food truck.
I've never been to Greensboro.
It's just so small.
It's not like 20 gates, Robyn. Come on, give me some credit.
4 gates.
It feels like 4 gates. And at least half the time I end up getting stuck there. I learned to fly out Monday at like lunchtime, so I could get out, because I was trying to catch the last flight out Sunday night. Man, that shit gets delayed 30 minutes and you're done. Can't make my connection in Charlotte. So I've spent plenty of time in the mud hut known as Greensboro Airport in North Carolina.
Oh, that's funny.
That's so funny. I think it's nice. I love flying out of there.
Well, when when it works well, it's great, because you can be in and out of that thing in 10 minutes.
Yeah. How many people are normally in line for security when you get in the security line?
Hundreds, probably. I don't know.
I feel like when I go, 4. It's like 5 or 0.
Yes. There's no point in like pre-check or TSA clearance or anything. Yeah.
No.
Yes, in that kind of airport, you do fly through. Well, you don't fly through quickly, but you move through quickly so that you can sit at the gate and have your flight canceled. It's fine, AJ. You're just bringing up bad memories, but that's fine.
PTSD of Greensboro Airport. Yes. I'm sorry. That's so funny. So, Robyn, I wanted to ask you, a lot of what we do with this podcast is it's very new breeder, new people into the hobby friendly. And that's really something that we're passionate about, is educating and working with some of those new breeders. So just want to ask, I guess, on Redline site and what you do you have any sort of like educational materials on how to ship and kind of the basics of that? I know we've talked about it a little bit here, but I didn't know if you have resources for that.
Yeah, we try and overdo on the guideline side of things, to familiarize. I still think it's, in this day and age, I still think it's best to get on the phone with a new shipper and talk them through the process and talk to them about the process. In my experience, a new shipper that's never shipped before it can be very intimidated by the process.
Yes.
It seems like, geez, I don't, I want to ship, but it seems like a lot to do. And kind of seems like a lot of people think it's like a roll of the dice as far as like safe live arrival. And that's not the case at all. If you do your job on the packaging side and the responsible shipping side, it's 99.9% chance you'll have a perfectly safe, fine arrival for your animals. So it's an extraordinarily safe process. We do have DOAs. We certainly do have DOAs. But they're a fraction of 1% of packages that are shipped. It's just not a common thing. And frankly, of the tiny percent of DOAs, the majority of those are due to misuse of heat packs.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. Yeah.
So I've seen some nightmare photos and videos of misuse of heat packs for sure.
Yeah, and we try and hammer on that constantly. But the reality is people don't read. They don't like to read. And so you could put all of this information out there, but it's very difficult to get them to consume it and listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we have a podcast. People will listen and watch.
It's about trying to share the info, right?
Yeah.
So I tend to be very verbose and put out a ton of information. And in the FAQ there, I hammer at certain topics again and again, whether it's heat pack use, temperature guidelines, and what have you. But when I talk to a new shipper, and we talk to new shippers every day, I tell them, there's essentially 4 basic steps to making it happen. The number one step is to get your packaging. You got to get the right packaging. You can't just use your Amazon box and think it's going to be right?
Yeah.
So you got to get your right packaging. It's an insulated box, reptile bag or deli cup. The second step would be to book your label, which you do on our website. The third step would be to package your animal. I'm not sure why balloons just went by, but that's great. Third step would be to package the animal, which is, package it safely and protect it inside the box. And the fourth step is to get the package in the system, either driver pickup or dropping it at the facility. But those are the 4 basic steps. It's not hard, but it seems intimidating. But when we can actually talk to somebody about it, which again is my favorite way to address it, is to call my staff and tell them, hey, it's my first shipment, not really sure what's going on. How do I go through the process? To be able to walk through those 4 steps and break it down and give people the confidence that they need to have to do it safely. That's one of the most rewarding parts about being in the shipping business. And whether that's for a new crested gecko breeder, or that's for the mom that is moving across country and she's got to move her kid's corn snake or frog or leopard gecko or whatever it is, mom's already arranged for all the furniture and stuff to move, and she's already arranged for new schools and whatever else is. But moving the corn snake seems like a really difficult thing, and it's very intimidating. And so to be able to walk them through that process and give them the assurance, again, mom often thinks like, this is a crapshoot. I'm going to put this corn snake in the mail, they mistakenly call it, and maybe it arrives on the other side. And she doesn't understand, like, we'll walk you through the process. We'll get you the right packaging. You put your corn snake in the FedEx system, and the next day it'll arrive, at its destination, and it'll be, safe and sound and happy. And your kid will be, thrilled. And then you get the callbacks from that mom that's like, oh my God, everything went great. It was so smooth. Thank you so much for the help and getting us through that. And same with the, small breeders. I saw an Instagram post just two hours ago. Somebody said, "Oh, my first shipment just went through with Redline Shipping. It was super easy." And I was like, "Oh, that's fantastic.
That's nice.
That's what I want to hear."
Yeah,
that's what I want to hear. I can, I guess I can pull back the curtain a little bit. You still have, like I said, you still have bad experiences. It wasn't 2 weeks ago we had a lady ship her pet bearded dragon, and it arrived DOA, and it was in just a plain box, no insulation. It was bagged in there. It had 4 heat packs, but they weren't heat packs. It was 4 hand warmers.
Oh no!
Which are absolutely the worst possible thing you can use. And there was 4 of them, and the animal's dead, and she was devastated. And she emailed us. She's like, "I did everything right." And then when you get the information, you get the packaging. It's like you didn't do a single thing correctly. Everything was absolutely wrong. And I hate that kind of result, because it was, that kind of DOA is completely avoidable. There's absolutely zero
preventable.
But it's, I've got verbiage and links on the site, and they're in all caps. I put that shit in red. I make you have to click the box that says you agree to follow the shipping standards. We try and break your arm to make you do it correctly, but in some of those cases, again, people just don't want to read.
Right here, you're coming soon with YouTube content. This is what the new generation watches. This YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. We're working on videos across all kinds of different species.
Okay, sweet.
To share. And there's a ton of great videos out there on packaging your various different species. So the information is there. It's just challenging sometimes to get people to absorb it. So on the animal side, I had the same type of experience when I bred and sold the animals, and I'm sure you guys do as well. I mean, some people will get a crested gecko and think this is the coolest species that's ever walked the earth. and then they will do some just bizarre setup for it, or some completely substandard setup for it.
They'll put in like 100-gallon tank.
Yeah.
And it's like,
right.
Why doesn't it eat? I've got a heat lamp on it and a 100-gallon tank.
Yeah. Or, I got my ball python. What's today? Today's Tuesday. I got my ball python on Friday. I've tried to feed it 5 times. It won't eat. It's like, what are you doing? Please stop. Please. When I sold snakes, I said, let them just chill out for 2 weeks. Don't even try to feed it. Just let it acclimate to the new home. Geckos are different than snakes, but just get a great setup. Let the animal be in there. Let low stress. It just traveled across the country.
Don't hold it every day.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to make it tame. It's like, you are stressing the hell out of it. Yeah. So, it's just a challenge. You get so passionate about the animals and about the experience. So sometimes it can be discouraging. That's the downside of our hobby and business. Sometimes it can be discouraging when the information is right there. It's right there for you. Yeah. And the support is right there. And to see, poor execution. Fortunately, again, with today's technology and the different platforms, there's more information than ever out there, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah. The setups themselves are also just light years ahead of what we were doing in the 90s and even 2000s. I love the bioactive movement. I love the more naturalistic setups, which Europe has been doing forever. But, not having, newspaper substrates and half log hide spots. I'm totally happy to be past that point. I'd love to see, like your setup there with all the green in the back. I'd love to see a live, more active, engaged setup for the animals. I think that's just so much more enriching, and that's really why we're in the hobby and the industry is for the animals. So we want to try to do the best that we can for the animals. So on the husbandry side, that's that aspect, and on the shipping side, that's my aspect to try and do the best job we can for the animals. And again, some people get really confused about what the success rates are. It's a fraction of 1% of animal shipments go badly. Okay. And the majority of that is from heat packs. Heat packs are absolutely necessary for winter shipping, but they have to be used appropriately. And most of the time it's people use hand warmers because they don't have access to a proper shipping heat pack, or they use multiple heat packs because it's a reptile. It must like it hot. And so if one heat pack will make it warm, 3 heat packs will make it hot, and it'll be even better. And that's how that works.
Cook your animal. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this. So I'll just talk a little bit about kind of the world that we're in of shipping geckos. I think for a long time, so I started breeding crested geckos around 2005. And for the longest time, people would not ship crested geckos unless the temperatures were like 65 to 75 degrees on both ends. It was people were very afraid of it, because it was a temperate species, and there was always this narrative of, man, if they get close to 80 degrees, they're going to die. And so everybody was just afraid of this number on the forecast. Right. And I think now we've started to learn how to use the tools available to us, cold packs, cryo packs, or face packs, and heat packs, and all of these different things. I think in our industry, we use a lot of phase packs. At least I'm sure a lot of people do, but I feel like in the crested gecko world, people just like throw them in the box like candy. It's just like every single box is getting a phase pack. At least most people I know. Could you speak a little bit to, I know that I've seen, I buy the Redline packs over from High
Reptile
Point.
Basics.
Yeah. So I go pick those up there, and I use a whole ton of them. Could you kind of talk about that product? Because I know that that's, your product, and now the Pangea product, which I think is your product kind of too.
Yeah, we make that.
Yeah. So could you kind of talk about that? And I'd love to hear kind of the breakdown of, from as much as you can share, like from a chemistry standpoint, how that is a safer product than that very, kind of noxious chemical pack that was the cryo pack or the phase pack before. Sure. I'd love to just hear, because it's fascinating to me. I cut one open and I'm like, what the heck is in this thing? And it's great because it does seem like a much more natural product. But I'm curious to ask you.
Yeah. So, the traditional phase packs, which would be the cryo packs or phase 22 packs, those have been around for decades. And we use those extensively at Pro Exotics as well. I used them and sold them. But when those leak or break open, as you said, it's a weird chemical goo inside.
And if you get it on your skin, the smell does not come out for a long time.
Yeah. And they're not, they were never that durable. So we'd get a case of them. And, the case is heavy. It's, it's like 50 pounds.
There's always two of them that are broken in the box.
Yeah. But whatever that touches is kind of ruined.
Yeah.
And so that was never an appealing aspect to that. And then the company itself was just a pain in the butt to deal with. They didn't have good customer service. I'd get a case and there'd be broken ones in there. I'd contact them and they'd just say, what do you want from me? There's no refunds. There's no help. There's no replacement. You could buy a wholesale case of those, or you could buy 3 pallets of wholesale cases, and the price was exactly the same. So they didn't give us any margin to be able to resell them at a reasonable profit and be able to stock them. So like SYR days, we stocked them and sold them, but we didn't make a nickel on them because there was no margin to be made really on them. And so when I started Redline Shipping, I wanted to take a look at some innovative products, and the face packs were not my idea. I'm trying to think whose idea was it. Dart Frog Connection was making his own face packs, and I think it was probably Josh Frog's. When I did a tour of Josh's place, he was starting to make his own face packs. Because much like the crested geckos, the frogs in the amphibian world, they don't want heat in their box. They just don't want the box to get super cold.
Yeah.
But you're not trying to, I try and explain to folks, the goal of the heat pack is never to heat the box. That's never the goal. The goal of the heat pack is to make sure the box doesn't get too cold.
Yeah.
That's a very different goal than make the box warm or hot. All of the reptiles, I mean, if I could ship and it was 68 degrees 100% of the time during shipping, I'd be golden. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. I never need it to be 78 degrees or 85 degrees during shipping.
Yeah.
So, and then, species like cresteds or frogs, especially tiny little dart frogs, are more susceptible to overheating when you have higher temperatures. And so I looked at what Josh was doing with the phase packs. And so I thought, well, Redline, we could do this and make a face pack. I talked to Rich, one of my partners in their Reptile Basics, and he's a great mind on the manufacturing side. And so, 3 days later, he was like, here's a link to the face pack machine, the machine that we can get to buy that will put together the face packs. Here's the material, here's the rundown, and it's going to take X number of, tens of thousands of face packs to pay for the machine. But that, if we guesstimate, we'll sell this many and this time, blah, 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 all that type of thing. We can keep the face pack machine at his property, in the warehouse, and he'll run it for us. And so to your point, AJ, like, what's the secret ingredient?
That's not exactly what I'm asking, but if you want to tell me.
We want to know if it's just coconut oil.
It is just coconut oil. That's all it is.
That's all it is?
Yeah, it's coconut oil.
There's nothing else in there? It's just coconut oil?
No, that's it. That's all you need.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell, when I cut it open, though, it doesn't smell like coconut oil. So it must be
it's industrial coconut oil.
Okay, that's what it is. So,
it's not
the kind you're cooking with.
It's not $15 per jar, skin lotion, coconut oil based. Some high fancy thing. It's a 55-gallon drum of coconut oil. Yeah, that's what it is. And so at this, 74-degree temperature, below that it's hard and solid, and above that it goes liquid. But the CryoPack product, there's nothing coconutty about that. That is just.
Is it more effective though? Is the CryoPack more effective than the coconut oil face pack?
No, they work the same way.
Exactly the same, huh?
Yeah, they work the same way. All it is you're adding thermal mass to your box.
Yeah.
And that thermal mass takes energy to change the temperature of it.
Yeah.
And so it helps prevent extreme temperature swings one way or the other. And I mean, it's a little bit of black magic, but that's the best way to basically understand it, is you're adding thermal mass to your box. And so, when you add 3 phase packs, that is even more stable in the box, depending on how you prep them. You can freeze them or chill them, to work more like a cold pack, or you can warm them up. Never microwave them, please. You can warm them up, but they don't generate their own cold or their own heat. Like a heat pack generates its own heat.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what the danger is, because you go shorter than 40-hour duration, like the 20-hour heat packs, 24-hour heat packs, 12-hour, and the hand warmers. Those get super, super hot.
Yeah.
For a shorter time, but they're generating their own heat, and the way they're doing that is by rusting. And it's iron powder and water and sawdust in those heat packs. And so once you expose it to water, that rusting process starts, and that's what generates the heat. And so the phase pack, you prep it according to what desire you want, whether it's room temperature, you want it cooler, or you want it warmer. And then the best thing about the face pack, one of the best things, is it's reusable. So, you can use it 100 times. It doesn't expire. And then the value of it in being the coconut oil product, it makes it biodegradable and organic, and there's no weird chemical goo. I've gotten pictures of people that have used the CryoPacks that have leaked and got on the animals, and it burns the actual scales on snakes. And so a lot of people now are using like a secondary container, like a Ziploc bag or something, to put their CryoPacks in.
I did that on the old phase packs for 15 years, and I still do that to the Redline packs just because it's like habit.
Well, if it does bust, it's certainly still messy if it's warm, like if it's liquid. And we found that out because we include free product in all of our packaging orders that go out. Usually Redline Science product, like scrapers. Yes, and so we started including back scratchers in with the phase packs. And wouldn't you know it, these little claws punctured the phase pack.
Oh no.
Well, the cup koozies, those are safe, right?
Those are safe, yes. So now we don't pack. You can't pack back scratcher with the face packs.
Okay, so you learned you got to omit the back scratcher in the face pack.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I literally got pictures of leaking face packs, and you could see 3 or 4 little holes. Yes. Great. Again, sometimes you learn lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
But at least that's not toxic to the animals. I mean, it's messy. It's still pure friggin' fat that's hard to wash off of everything. It'll certainly ruin your box, but it's not dangerous to the animals. So we brought that manufacturing in-house, and we wanted to make our own product. Frankly, if we had to replicate phase packs with the chemical goo stuff, I wouldn't have done it, because I'm not a fan of that product.
Yeah.
But because we could go in a different direction, that made it much more appealing. And I mean, I'm selling pallets and pallets of face packs now. It's one of our most popular products. That's fantastic.
I always viewed those, those chemical packs as kind of like a necessary evil. Where it was like, man, I don't like these things, but they do help. They do help the desired result quite a bit.
So 100% use, absolutely.
It's amazing that you guys did that. I've been so stoked on that, and I think I've bought 300 of them in the last 6 months.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love that.
I use a lot of them. So.
And it's convenient for you because you can swing down to High Point and pick them up.
Yeah, I just back the car up to the loading dock, and they throw them in. So
yeah, and at this point, I think they're pretty used to you stopping by for your packaging orders. So
yeah, I'm buying boxes, I'm buying face packs, all sorts of stuff. So
that, the Reptile Basics facility in High Point, North Carolina, it's another really interesting evolution.
Yeah.
I started working with Rich in the late 90s. I was selling him temp guns and some products. That was one thing I skipped over. Yeah, in the late 90s, we brought temp guns to the reptile market and pioneered that product and tool. But I was selling him. He was like a retail store. He had a pet store, and then he started, a small reptile business, working with some animals. And then over the years, he evolved into doing racks and cages.
Yeah.
PVC stuff. And he's kept on that same path and kept growing and growing. And now he's got that 30,000 square foot warehouse in High Point, and they are doing all kinds of different merchandise.
It's like walking through, it's like walking through a candy store for a reptile person. It's just so cool.
Yeah. There's tons of stuff there. So we stock all of the Redline Science products in that facility.
Yep,
and then another real great advantage was we do our packaging out of the Reptile Basics warehouse. Yeah. And one thing Rich was able to do, because he's a manufacturing guy, he bought foam cutter.
It's so cool.
Foam cutters. It is the coolest fucking machine ever.
To watch it cut is like the coolest thing. I think I sent Harry a video. I was like, look at this. This is so cool.
Yeah. So essentially it's a grid of wires.
Yeah.
And they are electrified and heated. And then that goes down through this giant, 4x4 by 8 block of foam. And the crazy thing is that the wires never touch the foam. It melts. It melts around the wire itself. Just, on a very micro level.
Yeah, like right before it touches it, it's melting it.
It melts it away. Yeah. But it makes super clean cuts. But we had always had a problem in Shipping Reptiles days about foam consistency for the boxes. You'd get a big bulk supply. Sometimes it'd be super loose fitting. Sometimes it'd be super tight. You almost couldn't use it. The quality was all over the place. So Rich was able to bring that in house, get his own foam cutter. So now we cut all of our own foam for our own boxes. But I also cut foam for customers that are using their own boxes, like Tyler Kirk at Spider Shop, one of my big spider guys. He buys his own custom shipping box, the cardboard itself.
And you guys
branded, for him. And then I ship him the foam that goes inside that box.
Yeah.
And so I can cut it specifically to his box size. Or I can cut somebody, instead of 3/4 inch, I can cut them 1 inch or 1.5 inch or whatever it needs. We had last year we did a giant tortoise shipment for Camp Kennan, and it was a Galapagos tortoise. And it was like a 24 by 32 inch box. It was a big old box, but I was able to cut custom foam just for that box to do that tortoise shipment. Yeah, just a one-off box to do. And so to be able to have that flexibility and that available to us has been really great. And so that's where the face pack machine lives.
I've seen them using it. It's super cool.
It's essentially like a potato chip machine, I guess.
Yeah, it just kind of like fills and crimps.
Yeah, it fills and heat seals. Ties it up, heat seals it, cuts it off, goes to the next one, cuts it off, goes to the next one. Yeah. The key is the funny thing we had to learn is with the oil, it has to be of a particular melted temperature to be able to work, because it pumps it through the system. And so when it's cold, that's a 55-gallon block of hard oil that not pump anywhere. Yeah. But even then, you gotta have a barrel heater to heat up the oil. And it takes like 3 or 4 days to melt the oil to where it can run through the machine. And then you learn the lesson that when you run it through the machine, once you're done, you can't leave the oil in the machine, like in the tube.
Else it clogs the whole machine.
Because then that gets hard, and then everything is clogged.
So you gotta flush it.
You got to flush it out and get it all through. We actually ended up building. Rich ended up building a heated tent around the machine. AJ, if you saw that, like it lives in like a little heated sleeve because of that issue. Because otherwise it's just a disaster if the whole thing gets cold and stuff. But again, to be able to bring cool products to the market is always exciting. Those are always can be very challenging, but the face pack has been super successful. We sell just a ton of them. I'm really happy that people have accepted them and started using them. I think it's a really great shipping tool. The downside is the price. It's I think they're $5 a piece, or I think $3.50 a piece in cases. For guys like AJ, which is not expensive. But in the reptile world, people can be very cheap. Yeah. So to say I'm going to use two face packs per box that goes out, that's probably $7, and you're not going to get those back. And so a lot of people are reluctant to put an extra $7 into their package or an extra $3.50 into their package and send it out, when it would really be the best choice for the animals. But finances are finances, and some people just don't want to invest the extra $3.50 to give better chance of success for their animal. But a lot of people, especially in crested gecko world, are adapting to using face packs in the shipping. So I'm real happy about that.
I think it's at this point,
it's very common.
I'm shocked if I ever see a box shipped to me without one. Like at this point, I feel like it's standard. It's more alarming if I don't see it.
Yeah,
it's that common.
That's good
at this point.
6 years ago, I would say maybe 5% of shippers even knew what a face pack was. It just wasn't very common.
I've just used them for I don't know why I started, but I've been using them for 15 years or whatever.
Yeah. So we also did custom branding. So we did the Pangea packs.
So you sell to Pangea?
You did?
No, you guys sell to Pangea?
Yeah, the face packs I sell to Pangea. Yeah.
Oh, okay, because they look exactly the same. They look just different with the branding.
Yeah, just the artwork. Yeah, we just changed the artwork. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, we do. Yeah. I do. I don't do a lot of business with Pangea as far as selling them stuff outside of. I sell face packs. They buy Redline Science stuff. Hemostats and scrapers and stuff. But again, it's just another great entrepreneur that I've followed for decades, with Matt Pangea and the team that he has. I love to see their success. Holy friggin' gold mine with Pangea Foods.
That's right.
Yeah, he could probably buy a small country at this point with the money he makes off food.
That's something you guys got to get into.
There was I'm sure you guys must remember, there was a rush at one point where every crested gecko breeder and their little sister had their own line of food. There had to be 8 or 9 lines of crested gecko food for a while. And that's mostly shaken out because it's just not super sustainable. But Pangea has such great penetration in the market, as well as Repashy stuff. But if you ever get a chance to visit the facility, like they have, the machines and stuff that package up the food right there at the facility. It's a really impressive setup. It's way cooler than the face pack machine. I can tell you.
Yeah.
It's also 10 times as expensive.
Yeah. I went a long time ago to see Pangea's operation, and that was before they had all the fancy machinery. When I was there, they were still scooping it with,
shovels,
cups out of Rubbermaid totes. So I'm sure it's much more advanced than it was.
Yes, it's a lot of it's automated. It's a fairly good sized machine. It sorts it and bags it and seals it, spits it out, labels it, the whole spiel. So really cool aspect of how Matt's been able to bring that along, and really neat. A neat company and neat product that he's doing.
Yeah, they're killing it.
Robyn, I'm talking about outlook on the reptile hobby as we kind of wind down a little bit. From your perspective, do you see an increase or a decrease in animals being shipped and sold from a few years back? Maybe from your ship your reptiles to you, SYR to Redline, do you see an increase in numbers in terms of the shipping volume?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely grown.
Oh wow.
It's definitely grown. You know, and I think we'll see, I think, some cycles over the next couple of years. Like COVID was absolute bonkers boom time, you know?
Yes.
Volume was just off the charts, shipping wise and business wise, you know, animal wise, production wise, buying wise. Then that tapered down after, but where we are now is still much bigger than where we were in the 2000 teens.
Okay.
And yeah, I see shipping growing every single year. So I think we'll continue on the upswing on that. This has been a little bit challenging the past year, and I think you'll see, you know, some breeders step out, especially like on some more saturated markets like ball pythons and stuff. Some breeders will step out. You know, maybe some gecko breeders step out, but and some people are very pessimistic about this year or the future, and I'm opposite. I think 24 is going to be very strong and do really well. Awesome. And I think we'll continue to be on the upswing. What happens is that the industry and the business always cycles. This is not new. And that's what happens. You know, somebody gets a hot species or hot segment, and then there's a flood of new breeders or producers into that segment. And then it doesn't necessarily get oversaturated, but sometimes people get in, you know, I'm going to breed crested geckos and become a millionaire. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
It might seem to be how it works. Like, oh, I'm going to start breeding geckos, and then I'm going to sell water bowls and do my own food, and I'm going to be the next Pangea. That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. What works is a smart approach. What works is being passionate about the animals you're actually doing. And what works is being consistent. You have to be consistent and reliable over a long term. And a long term is not 6 months. You can't buy a pair of corn snakes and then expect to take over the corn snake market 3 years from now. That's not how it works. Same with crested geckos. Consistency would be 5 years down the road and then 10 years down the road. And so the folks that are consistent and work through these types of cycles, they will continue to grow and continue to be strong 5 and 10 years from now. The people that are trying to be, you know, flash in the pan, like get in fast and make some money, I mean, sometimes that works a little bit, but most of the time those folks crash and burn. And so like on the ball python side, a lot of ball python folks got in during COVID when it was super boom time. And now the prices are going to be softer. And so they're going to get out because
same with cresteds.
So it's just going to be too painful for them, or they've put in too much and they're not going to be able to sustain it. Whatever it is, then they get out. But all that's going to do is create opportunity for the folks that are still in. And for the folks that are going to execute and be consistent. You know? And that's so, awesome. I always think of it more in that way. Don't be surprised by the cycle part of it, because we cycled in the 90s and we cycled in the 2000s, and where there's a terrible down cycle in 2008, 2009, 2010, and the industry feels like it's 3 times bigger today than it was then. The opportunity is always there. It's about what your goals are and how consistent you can be, and don't get overextended to what you're doing. You got to have a strategy and a plan. So I think this next year is actually going to be really strong. I think it'll be strong for shipping. We'll probably hit all new peak numbers. What we did for August of 23, I expect August of 24. My goal is to do double that. And I'm awesome. A growing business, so that's not a normal type of growth line, but I think we can do double that. And that's what we're going to try and get after. So that's awesome. I think the next year is going to be very good.
You've done a good job.
No, well, thanks. I've got a great team. I do a lot of promotional shit and branding stuff and chatting folks up, and I do a lot of relationship stuff. but I got a really solid team that does the customer service part,
Yes.
and the packaging aspect, and following up with customers, working with FedEx, and my FedEx team is great as well. So it's a team effort over here for sure.
Yep, that's awesome. Beautiful.
Yeah. Now what I really need is to get one of my team members to become comfortable on video so they can do interviews and stuff as well.
Well, you're the guy for now.
Nobody else wants to do interviews. I'm sure you find it. I'm sure you see it, interviewing different folks. A lot of people are really intimidated by it,
It's a scary thing to do for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people avoid it.
Right, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I love the exchange of information. I love the
learning,
the support that we can, spread around the community and around the industry. But I'm not trying to throw AJ under the bus, but my team leader AJ, she's the best shipping person in the industry. I'd love for her to go on podcasts and talk about that and share her passion for it. She has an absolute passion for it. But that's like pulling teeth to try and get her to go do an interview. That's not her thing.
Yeah.
It can be the skill set. She can learn to do it, and I think she'd be fantastic at it. But to start at it, I think it gives her anxiety. It's not her thing.
You gotta kind of like shake the dust off with a couple things, and then once you get through the first couple, it gets better for sure.
It's easier for sure.
You gotta kind of just get over the fact that you're, I don't know, in the spotlight. The weirdest ones are when we do like live streams. And so we'll do this, but there'll be all the comments and everybody's in, there's all the live chat. And that's like another level.
It's a little bit more intimidating.
That really freaks people out.
It's interesting, but I enjoy doing this side of things. I love talking about the business. I love talking about the industry, where we've been, where we're going.
Yes.
I love supporting, great folks doing great work and folks that are working hard. I'm super stoked you guys brought up Tristan. Again, one of my favorite people, that is just out there busting his butt. And I think that's a really great role model for folks to have. And at the same time, you have to realize the amount of hours Tristan puts in and the years now that he's put in to get to this point. If you want to be like Tristan, you can. But you have to have the drive to do it.
The things.
You got to have consistency to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to take years to get there. So, good for him. I love people working hard. That's really awesome. Easy to support those kind of folks.
Awesome. Yeah, Robyn. So as we kind of close out, what are some plugs? We pull up your website. You have your Instagrams. You have the Reptile Report, things like that. What are some plugs for you and your team of everything you're doing? It sounds like you're doing a ton of stuff. And so
we do have a lot going on. So redlineshipping.com is my main focus. We help folks transport their live reptiles and aquatics and even plants now.
You guys have the best prices?
What's that?
Prices? You guys have the best prices out of everybody?
We offer a custom discount that, will make that true.
Awesome.
Every competitor has kind of their own pricing structure. We all do custom discounts. I'm not going to lose a customer over $2. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to work with any customer that's coming from my competitors and take a look at a custom discount and get them a rate that's going to work well for them. Absolutely. We do all the packaging and the face packs, as we've talked about pretty extensively. We are on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not nearly hip enough to be on TikTok. There is AJ. How about that?
AJ, this is your first step of becoming a podcaster. So.
Well,
AJ, you can come on the podcast, and there could be two AJs. Me
there you go. Yeah, AJ 1 and 2. So this the one you just had there, that AJ picture, and then the picture above it for Sugar Skull. That's part of our Redline project, which is our current big promotion, which is the largest promotion in the history of the industry at this point.
Okay. And
so we are putting together. We make a sling bag, a crossbody bag, and on the front of that bag is Velcro. And so on the Velcro, we put different patches of different companies and breeders and brands. I've got US Arc patch, Epic Serpents. This is Portuguese pythons, some Redline ones. But at this point, so the idea was I would have breeders make their own patch to go on the bag.
Okay.
And it's a PVC patch, so it's like a soft rubber silicone style. And so you make your own patch to go on the bag. A patch like this particular size, 2 inches or so. This is my Mandalorian patch. It's about 65 cents, so it's really inexpensive. And I thought, wow, it would be really cool if we got like a couple dozen breeders to make patches for the bags. And we'll do a big event at Spring Tinley mid-March in order to, buy, sell, trade all the patches. Yeah, that's great. At this point, we have like 150 breeders participating.
Wow.
That's
and
amazing.
so I think at Spring Tinley, we'll probably have over 200 patches from all kinds of different folks that will be available to collect. Some of them will be free. Some of them will be $1. Some will be $3. NERBC is doing a whole series of patches based on all the T-shirts that have been done over the years. So we have Beauty in the Balls. We've got Small Town Exotics, Epic Serpents are those in those pictures there. So I encourage folks to do not just your logos, but I encourage folks to do them like more whimsical type patches. Just, it's a very inexpensive promo.
Yeah.
So do something fun and goofy. And so Portuguese Pythons, he's Danny there is well known for his giant tombstone style mustache. And so I told him, I was like, do a friggin' mustache patch, man. That would be super rad. So I sketched it out on paper and I sent it over to him. We had the art done, and now there are literally 600 mustache patches that are going to be available for folks. Awesome. But like Sugar Skull Serpents, I love his artwork there.
Yeah.
That's a really beautiful patch. And all these pictures I just got this morning, I just put them up. They came this morning from the factory and they're shipping our way now. So we'll have those in time for Spring Tinley. I did talk AJ into getting her own patch done. So she has a patch, which she's moderately thrilled about. Yeah. And so you can come and get an AJ patch from AJ at the Tinley show. She'll love that. So yeah, I mean, Redline alone, we probably have 20 different patch designs. Okay. So that's our big promo right now. We've literally got, like I said, 150 different vendors participating. It's fantastic. I love. It's a chance for folks to take a fresh look at their branding. It's a chance for them to participate in a large promo and marketing campaign at a very low cost. I'm facilitating literally 100 people, finding the factories and getting the art done and getting patches produced and all of that kind of stuff. I will be selling the bags that you can put patches on, but you can put your patches on your hoodie or your hats or just collect them, whatever you want. But yeah, it's just a chance for breeders, big and small, to participate in essentially a fun promotion. So that's our big thing right now that I'm working day and night on.
Very cool. And then Reptile Report, you just let it run and kind of
Reptile Report. So the idea is here we feature pictures and videos from across the reptile world, and just great pictures from different breeders, big and small.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, and I know right there at the top there is a great spider picture. I think is that Buddha bugs.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, Buddha bugs. So I'm really fascinated with the invert folks right now. That's just a monster exploding segment of our industry. Inverts are just incredibly popular right now. And so just to be able to see all the different cool species that people are working with, all the cool photos. We've got a bunch of pro photographers that contribute photos for it. But most of it is just breeders, just like you guys, producing animals and getting them featured and getting more eyeballs on it. So, Reptile Report continues to plug along very strongly.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. We appreciate you giving us all the info of the shipping industry. A lot of stuff I learned, at least. Yeah. And so that was very helpful. I also just personally just love your passion. Like I haven't met you before, Robyn, before this, but then just your spirit and how you do things, to me, I love that. I'm like, oh man, that's really inspiring. So I love just your hustle and your passion for these things. And so
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's, you know, like I said, it's so easy to support people that are passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, great people doing great work. And so I have the same approach, you know, that you do, as far as I love just to see people be passionate about what they're doing and be really into it. And I mean, that's just the bread and butter of our industry and our hobby, is people just obsessed with the animals and the husbandry aspect and the breeding and the production and everything. So it's a great industry to be in. And yeah, I mean, the next 10 years are going to be incredible.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Well, we appreciate you. If you could stay for 1 minute after we say goodbyes, we'll chat with you on the back end. So
all right,
thank you guys. We appreciate you. And Robyn,
thank you, Robyn.
we're super appreciative of you, man. So thank you for your time. See you guys.